Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the Discover the Power of OpenText AppWorks webinar. My name is Neha Jha, and my colleague Nicholas King and I will be hosting today's session. I'm the Product Marketing Manager for AppWorks, while Nick is the Senior Director of the AppWorks Product Management team. Before we begin, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. You'll notice on your console window, there are multiple engagement windows. All the windows are movable and resizable. So feel free to move them around and get the most out of your desktop space. You can expand your slide area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. We encourage you to ask questions during the webinar, which you can submit through the Ask a Question box. We'll have a live Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Please know we do capture all questions, so if we run out of time, we'll answer your questions later via email. For the best viewing experience, we encourage you to use a high-speed and stable internet connection and close any programs or browser sessions running in the background that could cause issues. Events are bandwidth intensive, so closing any unnecessary browser tabs and logging off VPN will help conserve your bandwidth. If your slides are behind, pushing F5 on your keyboard will refresh the page. You can find additional answers to common technical issues in the Help tool at the bottom of your screen. A recording of the event will be available after the event concludes and can be accessed using the same audience link sent to you earlier. So let's begin the session with an icebreaker question. How familiar are you with OpenText's process automation offering? Please rate on a scale of 7, 1 being the least, 7 being the highest. Moving on, let's take a quick look at the agenda. We'll be covering topics like digital transformation, product introduction, demo, success stories, and much more. Over the last decade, the term digital transformation has been a focal point for C-level executives and change makers aiming to stay competitive in an ever-evolving market. Among several technologies driving this transformation, business process automation stands out as a critical enabler. Let's begin with the definition of business process automation. Gartner defines business process automation, BPA tools, as software that automates business processes by enabling orchestration and choreography of diverse sets of actors, humans, systems, and bots involved in the execution of the process. BPA tools provide an environment for developing and running applications that incorporate process models and optionally other business decision and data models, enabling digitization of business operations. Let's move to the next question of interest. How big is the market? As mentioned in the Gartner's Market Guide for Business Process Automation, the global BPA market was worth $2.6 billion in 2022 and is on significant growth trajectory to reach the $3.6 billion mark in 2027. So next, we'll have a look at the formal definition of B. Introducing AppWorks, OpenText offering for enterprise-grade process automation requirement. How will a customer benefit from using AppWorks in daily operation? AppWorks offers a comprehensive and scalable solution for digital transformation, capable of orchestrating a wide range of processes, from unstructured to structured workflows. By optimizing processes, customers can experience increased efficiency, reduce costs, and improve decision-making. With AI-powered low-code tooling, both business and technical users can rapidly build applications, significantly lowering the total cost of ownership and increasing agility. As business needs evolve, AppWorks can easily scale to accommodate growing workloads and complexities. What are the ideal scenarios for selling AppWorks? AppWorks supports a wide spectrum of automation use cases, including dynamic case management, end-to-end automation, workflow automation, service orchestration, and business rules management systems. Let's briefly explore each of these use cases. Dynamic case management automates unique processes with unstructured or semi-structured workflows in real time. A prime example is insurance claim processing, where each claim may have different requirements and steps. End-to-end automation optimizes processes that span across departments, involve longer life cycles, and require complex decision-making. Technologies like RPA and AI enhance this type of automation. The loan approval process is a key example where multiple steps and checks are automated for efficiency. Workflow automation focuses on processes with short life cycles, requiring minimal human intervention and IT support. Employee onboarding is a standard example where a series of steps can be streamlined to ensure a smooth start for new hires. Service orchestration combines multiple automated tasks to deliver a seamless service. For instance, the background check process integrates various automated steps efficiently. Lastly, a business rules management system automates tasks based on predefined business rules. A typical example is the process of checking credit scores. Passing on the baton to my colleague, Nick, for the next slide.
Thank you, Neha. Yeah, so why AppWorks? How does AppWorks kind of differentiate? So we take the approach with AppWorks of starting with what we call information-driven design. So you begin, when you think about an AppWorks solution, about the data that you want to actually handle within that application. So whether it's employee information, whether it's customer information, whatever it might be, you start to design the data model that you're going to manage with the AppWorks solution. We then move on to adding in using AI-assisted development and drag and drop pre-built components. We call them building blocks. You literally drag the building blocks into the application. You select the ones you want. And we take this approach of as much functionality with the building block with minimal configuration. So as a developer, you don't have to understand loads to be able to actually get a basic application up and running. And then there's a second level of advanced configuration you can go to actually then fine tune how those building blocks behave. And then the third thing we do is look at where else we might want to bring data from. So obviously not all the data is going to be managed inside the AppWorks solution itself. So we can connect to information in other systems, whether it be content systems or other line of business systems. So we can actually start to integrate all that other information into your application as well. Next thing we do is add in processes. So you can start with a process. You might be thinking, well, what if I want to start with building a process first? That's absolutely fine. You can start with a process and think about data later. But typically, this is the flow that people follow. But you can then add in the process, whether it's a straight through kind of automated process, more of the orchestration type, or whether it's more of a case management type process, which is more human driven and more dynamic and can change each iteration of the process. So we build those processes that are either the main kind of case handling process itself, or supplementary processes to do system integration or call out to an RPA tool, to an RPA robot to go and orchestrate something on another system. We then are able to deploy that application and run it pretty much anywhere. So we have a web interface which runs on any device, and we can deploy the software on premise in a managed service by OpenText, or in any cloud that you wish to deploy it into using containers. And we also have a FedRAMP authorized version that's available that meets all of those stringent requirements for FedRAMP. And then obviously on top of that, once you have an application deployed and you have processes running, how do you understand what's going on? So we leverage our Magellan BI and reporting platform, which comes with AppWorks, a limited use license with AppWorks, so that you can build all of the dashboards and reports that you need to gain real-time insight into what's going on in the application, and to understand, where you can optimize the process or where bottlenecks might be appearing, and that kind of thing, and to run those management type dashboards that customers want. So we have the whole end-to-end kind of capability to manage not just the information and the processing, but also gain the insight around it. So the key thing here is that obviously AppWorks, as it used to be called, we also sell lots of other things: content management, analytics, security, and so as a partner of OpenText, there's a lot of value in building a solution that incorporates not just one product but many products. Content obviously is a key one for us, and if you integrate AppWorks with one of our content solutions, then you get the ability to bring and seamlessly integrate content into your case or workflow processing. It's all out of the box, all native with one of these simple building blocks. But you also get the benefits of things like extended ECM, where you get the two-way metadata synchronization between maybe SAP and your AppWorks data model as well. So we get that two-way data sync if you're using something like extended ECM. So that provides huge value that none of our competitors have such a tight integration with our content platforms. And obviously we are the leading content provider. So what does that look like in terms of the content footprint or content landscape? So obviously the most value, the most power comes with extended ECM. When you tie AppWorks, now called Process Automation, with extended ECM, the new name will be OpenText Content Management. So this is the kind of, I suppose, the default option where you get all that, say, metadata sync, you get full content management capabilities, all of the things like Teams integration and signature integration and all those good things. We then can also integrate with Documentum. We have a native integration to Documentum. So it's a good upsell opportunity to Documentum customers when they want something that's more advanced than, say, XDP or the basic Documentum workflow capabilities. We can also integrate with core content for a kind of a hybrid approach. So if a customer wants some basic content management, but they don't want to pay for or deploy another full-scale content management solution, they could subscribe to core content and hook that up to AppWorks, either running on-premise or in a cloud environment, to give you that hybrid cloud environment. And that's now available as of the 24.3 release of AppWorks. You'll find I still end up calling it AppWorks and Process Automation interchangeably. We do have another option, which is for customers who don't want any content management from OpenText and don't have their own content management system already. So we can integrate through CMAS, for example, as well. But we also ship AppWorks with a limited use license of Archive Server for pure just content archival. So if your use case is for real more process automation, and as part of that, there is an amount of content management, and you just want to store that, archive it for long-term storage as part of the process handling, but you're not really worried about full-blown content management capabilities, then it is possible to deploy a limited use instance of Archive Server just for use with process automation. So as you can see, we have the full range of OpenText solutions. We also have an integration with App Enhancer. So again, for customers that maybe are using App Enhancer, it's also a good upsell opportunity to sell advanced content management, process automation, I mean, for app-enhancing content management. So in terms of licensing, it aligns with our sort of other license models for extended ECM specifically, really, and where we have a named user license, which is full access to all product features for employees of the organization purchasing it. The occasional user has access to all the product features for 52 days in a calendar year, so once a week access for a manager, for example, who might log on just to review a document or approve a document, for example. And then we have a transaction SKU, transaction license, which is for API access via a service account for external users. And the typical use case for this is a citizen portal, for example, in public sector, or a customer, a banking website where a customer can log on and they'll authenticate using the banking, or the public sector use case, they'll authenticate with a local authority identification. And then using a service account, that portal or website then calls the APIs to create a case, update a workflow, retrieve the status. And so that's what the transaction license is for, that kind of external access use case. And it is, one transaction is an API call. So obviously a case could require multiple API calls, or an interaction might require multiple API calls. And so we typically sell these in very large quantities, 500,000, 250,000, 10 million transactions a year. And the counter is reset every year to handle those use cases. And it's really about value selling. At that point, you have to determine what's the value to the customer for that external access use case, and we can price those SKUs, those transaction licenses accordingly. The only other thing I would say is that OTDS, our directory service, is required obviously for authentication and single sign-on, but also to handle licensing, to be able to allocate out a named user license or an occasional user license to specific individuals, and also to assign which users are these service accounts in OTDS. And then AppWorks will count the licensing usage so that a customer can run the license report and actually then make sure that they're in compliance with their named user, occasional user, and transaction license count for the year. So that's the kind of slideware for now. I want to jump in and for those of you that haven't seen AppWorks, this will be brand new. For those of you that have, you might see some new things in here, depending on the version you've been using. So, share my screen. Okay. So you should. I'm sure somebody will soon scream at me if. So this is, I've logged into AppWorks, or OpenText Process Automation, as the name will become in 24.4. And you'll see that there's a whole bunch of admin and system configuration tools here. So this is our general administration and development environment. My user is a developer and a system administrator. A developer, to actually create an app, typically will just go to Workspace, Documents here, and we will follow a very traditional, very standard kind of concept of we can create a workspace. I'll create one here called Expenses. And we can link this to source control, so we can connect to Subversion or Git, depending on your preference. Typically it's Git these days, so we can manage all of the artifacts that we're configuring in proper source control. I won't for the sake of this demo, and I'll say next. Now I'm going to create an expense approval app, OpenText, and you can break up your project into multiple, your whole solution into multiple projects. You can reuse projects. So typically you'd have a central project with maybe a data model in it and some common processes. So I've got a new workspace here, and it's empty at the moment, called expense approval. And we go in and we create things. So we can create, typically we create folders to organize our content. I won't bother for this demo. And then I can create any kind of artifact in my application. And you'll see there's a huge range. We won't go through them all here, but business processes, we can style things with CSS, we can define case models, process models, decision tables, we have rules engine in here, all kinds of things. I'm going to create what we call an entity, which is our base kind of data type. And the entity is really the kind of the central thing where I talked at the beginning about data-driven design. This allows me to define a simple data object. I'm going to call this we'll give a reference. That can be text. We'll give it a description field. This could be a long text field. Date submitted. There we go, date submitted. That can be a date field. I'll leave it at that for now. And I'll say add. What Appworks does is it then creates the basic to manage this entity. So that has the properties, the date, submitted, description, reference. We have a form. And if I open up the form, you'll see this is how we do our user interface design. It's drag and drop WYSIWYG design of an interface. So for example, I'm going to change this description field here to maybe be a rich text box. So I can make that bigger. Move it over here. I won't worry about laying it out too neatly, but you get the idea that you can do your user interface design from here. We have a list, which is what will actually display in the user interface, allow me to see these, preview them, open up expense claims. I'm going to rename this to expenses, to approve. And I want to add in now a link to the employee. So we manage relationships between data objects, as you'd expect. So I'm going to relate one expense claim to something else. In this case, I'm going to choose an internal entity, which lag in my system, I think. So I want to link to a person or a user. So this will be the employee. So I'm going to call this employee submitting it. And I won't bother making it bi-directional for now, but we can support one-to-many, many-to-one, bi-directional relationships, etc. And if I edit my create form again, and I'm going to just link in here, you'll see now I've added a relationship to employee, how easy it is for me to add this now to the user interface. And I can represent that employee as a button, as a search sort of dialog that will pop up. I'm going to choose a drop list. So I'm going to call this, choose the list I can browse from that will appear. Contact. And I'm going to show in the list the display name. And this is going to be called employee. And we can decide we don't want the create action. So the plus button disappears, so I can't create an employee on the fly. I'm going to save this, all this expense, and say OK. So I have a list, I have a form. The other thing we have in here is what we call a layout. And a layout is now the whole user interface screen. And so I can go in here and I can say, how do I want my actual screen to look? Form design is one thing. Layout design allows me to define the panels and the sections of the screen. So by default, we have the breadcrumb, which is navigation. We have actions, which are a series of buttons. And then we have the form, which is our create form. So we'll come back to this in a minute. And I'm going to publish this. And you see just how quickly we can get something up and running. So if I jump now to what an end user would see, and I refresh, this is, we call it the Appworks runtime. This is the end user interface for interacting with your applications. So you'll see we've got a default set of inboxes here, task lists. So I can see as a user, I have tasks assigned to my role, etc. But we've now got this new list. So all of this is role-based security, so I only see things I'm allowed to see. So if I go to expenses to approve, I can click on the add button here, and I can type in here, this will be trip to the office. Obviously, I haven't added an amount field. I can go back and add an amount field if I wanted to. I'll go and pick, I'm submitting it today. And okay, I don't have any employees in my list, so I can't pick an employee. That's bad demo. But you get the idea. And I can see this expense claim now. So this is what the form looks like. This is the breadcrumb. This is the action bar here, so I could delete this. So it's very simple, and it's very iterative as a developer. It's very fast to work on prototype. It's great for using to prototype rapidly, show it to the customer, get ideas, come back, make some changes, go back, show the changes again, for example. So I'm going to go and add in some more behavior in here, some more functionality. So I'm going to go and actually change this because I picked the wrong list, I think. And if that will work. So I'm going to add in some functionality. Now you see, these are what on the left we call building blocks. So we have a set of building blocks. I'm going to add in some what we call functional ones. So I'm going to add in content. So this is what I mean by a building block has maximum functionality but minimum configuration required. So I don't have to do anything else to integrate with content. This could be extended ECM, Documentum, Enhancer, Archive Server. I can go in and make some configuration changes, like if a document gets sent to core signature for signing, what happens when it comes back, for example, where in the content management system do the files for this particular entity, this expense claim go. There's a default path. I can change that. You see there's the expression language we have. But I'm not going to do any more. I'm also going to add in a discussion building block. And I'm going to add in history. And I'm going to create now a new history log. Just really quickly for this. Call it expense log. There we go. So now I've added some building blocks. I can go back to my layout. And you see here in the panels, I can now start to bring in new panels. Depending on where I drop them, this will be two separate panels on the screen. If I drag and drop one over here, it becomes a tab view. So I've added that, and I'm going to add in my history as well over here. So you see how quickly I've added 3 building blocks, and I'm going to publish that out. And we publish incrementally, so if you make a very small change and you publish, it's very fast to publish. If I reload this, okay, and I'm going to create a new expense. Yeah, I now have some people. Create second expense. Now when I open it up, you'll see I have a whole load of new things over here. I also, by default, have new buttons, new action buttons, so I can add a comment because I've got discussions. I can open up the history in a pop-up window, and all these buttons can be configured. You'll see now content management. I can go straight in here and I can create a folder. I can go and upload a document in here. I can filter it and I can interact with whatever my content management system is without having to do anything else. Discussions, I've got threaded discussions here, so I could add a new are you allowed to claim for this? This could be my manager. And so we can have a discussion, a threaded discussion in here. And if I look at the history now, you see that I have a kind of a human readable log of what's gone on inside this case. So it's very simple to build an AppWorks solution using these building blocks. And if we want to do one more thing, I'll show is process. So I'm going to close that and close that. And I'm going to add in what we call the lifecycle building block. So you'll see there's structural, there's presentation, and then there's business logic. So we have different types of process. An activity flow is a predefined set of steps that always happen, very simple kind of process. A dynamic workflow is a capability that allows an end user actually to define their own steps and tasks. It's like a mini case model. So if I add the dynamic workflow building block here, I can do some configuration of the types of tasks and things, and what happens when different tasks are created and assigned. But the actual process itself, the steps and tasks, are defined by a business administrator who has the right role. And so it puts the control of managing those simple processes into the hands of the end users without having to come back to a developer, which is really powerful. I'm going to add in there what we call a life cycle, which is a true case model, true state or diagram. So I'm going to add in the life cycle building block. And this allows me to define then a series of states and then transitions between states. So I'm going to add in an initial state. I'm going to we'll call this one review. This one could be approve. And this could be I'll make this payment. Okay, and then we have an end state. So we can define multiple states and different transitions and things. Then within a state, we always need a state entry. And then we can have tasks. And so I can go in and add here now multiple tasks of different types. This might be manager review task. Let's say we have one task here. And then in the approved stage, this might be, for example, I drew it outside of the box slightly when I drew it. This could be finance, approval, and I won't bother doing anything in payment. And you'll see here that the way that the lifecycle works is it'll be created when I create a new expense, it's kicked off, it starts in the review phase and assigns a task manager review to somebody. The default transition is that when all of the tasks in here are completed, it will move to the next step, which is what we want. I'm going to look at the properties here, and I'm going to check a box that says set as primary transition. So if I had multiple states and branching, I could define here what my sort of happy path would be, and I'm going to choose that so that you see what happens. And I'm not going to change anything else. These transitions can be made conditional, they can be made manual steps, manual state changes, which then appear as buttons and things. I'm going to leave that as it is. And I'm going to do one more thing, which is back in my layout. Because I've added in a life cycle, I can now add in some new panels. I'm going to add in progress bar up here. And I'm going to add in a task panel over here. Now, as long as I've not missed anything, when I publish this, it will publish, and I now have case management, dynamic case management as part of my process, part of my solution. Okay. So we'll go back to the home page, reload just to make sure it loads all the new configurations. Create a new expense. This could be lunch. So you see we now have progress. We can see our 3 stages. We can see tasks. And by default, tasks are assigned to the person starting it. So without making any other changes, it's very easy for a demo to do this. So you see that first task, which was manager review. So I can actually complete this. And all of this will be configured with rules and security so that you can't just claim and complete a task without maybe doing something. But I can complete this task, and I won't put a comment in. And you'll see that the life cycle moves to the approved state because the first task was completed. Same with this one here. Put a comment in, it was all okay, and you see it's now gone for payment. And the payment stage would typically then maybe trigger a true business process, which goes and calls a REST API into another system to trigger a payment out, for example. It's very easy with AppWorks to build and configure these applications. And if I history, refresh this screen because there's new things. So I can see here that look back and see that the history of what's happened, and finance finally approved it, and there was a comment that it was all okay. And we can filter this list to find things within the history, because obviously history can get quite big. So there you go. I'll leave it there for the demo. You get the idea of how easy it is to build an application as a developer. Really tailored applications that give end users applications that are intuitive to use, that have minimal mouse clicks. And as a developer, using the entity modeling approach here, gives you real control over that application with real, minimal training, and you can do very rapid iteration of the solution with a customer, which is great. So with that, I will stop sharing. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of our successes and where we see success with AppWorks in the market. So you'll see here our kind of most successful individual sector is public sector. So we see great success in public sector in all levels of government. Globally, we see that very well. Now that we have FedRAMP certification for US federal government, it helps enormously. And so that's a sort of citizen service, citizen access use case is really popular. And also giving access to people to manage their own processes, like that dynamic workflow feature, means that business owners can be in control of that process, which often changes regularly. It gives them a lot of control over that process and who has to be involved in an approval process. And we also see success in financial services for things like loan origination, insurance processing, etc. Energy and utilities for all kinds of relevant processes in that sector, and others. It's not exclusive to those, but yeah, we certainly see a big success in those three main industries. And just to kind of give you some more insight, so I said that public sector and citizen service has been very successful. We have our own kind of services solution that we label DigiGov, which allows customers to, public sector organizations to manage, and you see on the right, a whole list of sorts of processes, budget requests, accounting around budgets, preparing budgets, answering questions, parliamentary questions, handling complaints from citizens, handling requests for refuse collections that were missed, for example. Anything that a citizen might need to request or interact with the local government about, then AppWorks is great for handling those sorts of processes. And we have quite a number of government agencies around the world doing this sort of thing. We have an insurance company, Mitsui Sumitomo, MSIG in Asia. They built a solution in AppWorks. They automated 17 sales and claims related processes, so that customers increasingly want self-service. They want much faster time to resolution of a request. And so using AppWorks allowed them to do that and to really streamline that customer experience. We have a very large energy company in Europe who have really standardized on AppWorks for all of their process automation needs across the company, across the country. And they're also currently a big documental customer who are planning at some point in the future to also roll out extended ECM for some new features. But they have AppWorks connected to Documentum, and they're automating. The first use case was around the maintenance of the whole nuclear estate in the country, managing nuclear power plants, all the maintenance work on it. But they're rolling out, and they have a 10-year program, which started 2 years ago, but a whole program to roll out low-code process automation across the business for everything, anything you can think of. And so there's numerous projects ongoing right now. Many are in production, many are being rolled out as we speak. And it's a typical profile we see that customers can build maybe one large process for streamlining maybe loan origination, integrated with many systems, or they build multiple individual solutions. And we have customers that have over 100 individual applications built with AppWorks, where an application is a form, maybe a simple data model and a simple process, maybe some integrations with other systems. But they're very simple, but they really streamline a part of the business and allow knowledge workers to be freed up to do more meaningful work instead of the repetitive, boring stuff. This is another manufacturing company in India. They consolidated all their different ERP systems. They grow through acquisition and things. They consolidated all their ERP systems to one single platform, and then they deployed, modeled 18 different finance and accounting processes for the company as standards across the company. So they rebuilt numerous different processes that individual plants and things are running to streamline and standardize on 18 and manage to get down to 18 individual processes for the whole company, which was an amazing success story. And the only other thing I want to say really is that AppWorks is really good for building repeatable solutions. So a lot of our partners in Europe have a lot of success with things like DigiGov, which is a pre-packaged solution. It's very easy to deploy it and tailor it for each customer that it's being deployed for. We have an example of an open text solution built with it called Contract Center, which allows you to manage everything around contract lifecycle management, from managing the clauses and templates that are used for generating contracts, through to the execution and handling the execution of a contract, managing all the obligations and tasks that have to happen during the life of a contract. And then obviously managing things like renewals and prompting people to manage renewals properly so renewals aren't missed. Again, it's another solution that as partners you're able to sell and deploy and configure for specific use cases. But it's a really good platform for building your own specialist solutions on and deploying repeatedly. So I believe with that, I'm going to hand back over to Neha to finish off.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for that demo and presentation. Now that we have explored quite a bit about AppWorks, let's discuss the next steps for a successful partnership experience. We invite you to join us at our annual flagship event, OpenText World in Las Vegas from November 18 to 21st. Registrations are now open. This year's conference theme is AI and its revolutionary impact on how organizations approach work. It's a fantastic opportunity to connect with industry experts, engage in meaningful conversations, and share your experience on stage. We would love to hear your experience and your customers' experience. So please use the speaker form for nomination. We have worked with leading industry analysts Alan Pell-Sharp and Matt Millen from Deep Analysis on this white paper titled "A Simple Guide to Successful Business Process Automation." This is a very useful and lucid top-of-the-funnel asset where the experts demystify myths about BPA implementation. It's a great guide for both beginners and customers having doubts about BPA in later stages of implementation. I'll highly recommend you to check out this guide after this session. It's time to tickle your brain a bit. Now you'll see a poll question on your screen and you'll get ample of time to answer the question. Which of the following would help you most in selling AppWorks? You can select multiple options of the ones available. Deep dive product training sessions, customer success stories, use case demos, or any other support. So if you have an open-ended suggestion for us, like any other support, please use the Q&A panel to add your suggestion. I'll highly encourage everyone to submit their opinion because we want this to be a fruitful partnership experience. So please help us in improving our efforts. As we are hosting a series of sessions, I'm sure you're curious about what's coming up next. In the next session, we'll focus on AI-enabled feature of AppWorks that's called Developer Aviator. Developer Aviator empowers business users to build basic apps for simple processes using easy options like entering text instruction or configuring ready-made templates or importing Excel file of a process previously tracked by a spreadsheet. The beauty of Developer Aviator lies in its accessibility. Users don't need to have either programming expertise or exhaustive knowledge of AppWorks to build apps. By reducing training time, customers can accelerate time to market and minimize dependency on IT or professional developers to automate simple processes. Join us in the next session to see Developer Aviator in action and learn how riding the Gen AI wave will benefit your customers. We have had some great questions come in, so we'll jump right in. So the first question that I would like to take up, Nick, if you can answer this one, does AppWorks support deployment in cloud like Azure or AWS?
Yes, it does. Yeah, so we fully support deployment using Kubernetes for cloud deployments. So we supply not just the classic product installers that you can install on physical machines or on VMs, but you can also install using containers that we supply. Yeah.
Okay. Off to the next one. Are the pre-configured eGov processes available for partners?
So we have a couple. We have what we call a case accelerator that is available that does have some pre-configured solutions. The DigiGov solution that I mentioned is a specific solution that our professional services team have and do work with partners to deploy it. But yeah, it's a kind of a packaging that OpenText uses called DigiGov. But the case accelerator is available.
Okay. The next one, can AppWorks integration work with OTCS workflow?
Yes, it can. Yeah. It's all done. It'll obviously be done through APIs, but AppWorks is really good at integrating, using APIs between different process solutions.
Okay. And can we make AppWorks product manual, such as hardware configuration and user guide, available for our partners?
So as a partner, you should have access to material through the support site, I would have thought. If you don't have access to it through the support site or the material, then contact your partner manager and check, because I would have thought you should have entitlement to access it. if not, we can share some documents with you just so you can understand the sort of the hardware requirements and things like that.
Okay. The last one probably here. Do you have an idea of the spread of content server or Documentum or other repositories that are used by customers?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't have the numbers to hand. It's the ratio is definitely, majority are content server or extended ECM customers, closely followed by Documentum. It's quite a popular combination, Documentum and AppWorks together, and then obviously the rest. I mean, we have at least one customer I know of actually connecting to a FileNet repository, believe it or not, from AppWorks using that content building block. But yeah, I can't say the exact numbers, but yeah, it's predominantly extended ECM.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for answering all the questions. So that's all the time we have today for questions. Thank you to our audience for your great participation. If we weren't able to answer your question today, we'll respond directly via email. Please note that a replay of today's event will be available on demand shortly. And of course, we invite you to share it with your colleagues. Thank you to our audience today. This concludes our event. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Thanks, everyone.